virtually joining y'all.
Coming from?
Pardon?
Coming from?
I live just outside Kremlin. Been in Colorado for 2 years and finally got a time in my life where I have days off on the weekend.
See me when we're done.
And he played with Bobby Hamilton.
No.
Yes,
You are old.
I am.
Oh, wow. Huh, Kevin?
So, great turnout for the fitness section tonight. Some people did really well, and some people have some work to do. Everybody knows who they are, so let's keep working at that. Gil says he has to leave, so cheers, Gil.
Fair enough. Good time. Taking a look back at the reports, looked at about 35 reports from probably 8, 9 different coaches. So in statistics, we'd say that's a fairly diverse group and hopefully representative. Kind of interesting trends in looking at it. The most common thing that we saw was positioning. Either coming in at a 45 or not standing in no man's land. So one of the comments that was made to me last week about being on the 45 is that I feel like I'm in the way. I'm going to get hit by the ball if I'm standing on the 45. If you are standing on the 45, you will most likely get hit by the ball. The 45 is not a place to stand. It is a place to come in on, to arrive, to get in, to go to your breakdown, to clean things up, and then to get back out, probably on about a 15-degree line off of that offside line, or off of the offensive offside line. Did that make sense to people? Because that was like geometry and stuff, and nobody has to go tractor with that. Mark can draw up there what I'm talking about.
You can, I will.
Yeah. Tom can. So
Rock, come in here.
that's arriving on a 45. Get it
Get
nice
everything straightened out. Come out here.
and probably not that flat.
Well,
Come out not on the 45.
yeah, somewhere bisect that line.
yeah, somewhere like
Bisect that
that.
angle, please.
But there's nothing wrong with being flat. Sliding out flat is fine.
Yeah. Why do you want to be a little bit off the A line, a little bit off the offensive line? Part of it's to keep the defenders back. What does it do being back a step from that line? What does that give you? Peripherals. You can still see into the rock. If you're flat up on it, you can't really see what's happening there. Give that little bit of step, you can see the stuff in the corner of the eye, make sure it's coming out the way it should. So that's what you want to take a look at with that. Next most common thing, leave earlier. This goes back to the standing at a 45-degree and just kind of standing there. Oh, look, I'm looking at a ruck. Oh, wow, look, that ruck. Okay, the ball's moving. I should be checking offside right about now, shouldn't I? And then you turn, you say, get back, and now the ball's gone, and your feet still haven't moved.
Someone move the camera again.
Oh, all right, thanks. The final piece that goes right along with those was an even, and I split these ones, was scanning to look out to the backs, to be able to see where that next phase should be going. And then the other part was offside, which is again, scanning for the offside line. One was scanning for anticipation, the other was scanning for offside. Probably the biggest thing that we've been running into is that combination. And basically, over a third of the reports were like that. Any questions about that? Not that idea. How many of you are dealing with that or have that show up on your coaching report? You don't have to volunteer if you don't want. But yeah, probably the biggest most common problem. Next biggest thing was whistle signal for the communication. The other part about it was talk less, not talk more. It was talk less. Why do we worry about the whistle and the signals?
That'll do the talking.
That can do the talking for you. Short, sharp blast, it's probably going to be a scrum down. Longer, little more noisy blast, going to be a penalty. little two-tone celebratory whistle, you know it's a try. The old thing people used to say, you should be able to know what's going on in the game without even having to see it, just by hearing the referee's whistle. So that's one of those big ones. Get that nice big clear signal up here. You do this knock-on this way, not for the players, they all know they knocked the ball on. Most of the people in the stands know that they knocked the ball on. But it makes it clear to the opposition, makes it clear to the folks on the sideline, there's a knock-on. Thanks. By the way, tell me your impression. What does this tell you? What does this body language say?
You knocked on my ball.
What do you think about it? How many of you have made signals like that? Yeah?
Go ahead, I got it.
Nice and slow. So two big things. Positioning, you're there, and you make your call. When you make the call, how you make your communication, two huge things to take heading into the fall season. Any questions about that? Cool. Here's the thing. Scrummaging, 2 people talked about it. Tackle ruck, 7 people. Seriously, the technical stuff people didn't even worry about. It was all the communication and all about being there to see that first instant. So that's really where places to keep your eyes, places to keep your mind. Specific tournaments. Denver Sevens, I mean, one of the comments, especially kind of like Nick, Aaron, Derek, Zap, who's not here, Chuff. It's really tough to compare 7s, 15s. Refereeing's completely different. What works really well for you in 7s, Nick, makes you look terrible in 15s because you just have ramrod. But it looks like exactly what comes out, so I said, I've never heard his feelings. But it's exactly what you're seeing the folks look like on the IRB circuit. And other folks, I mean, Aaron, yeah, you identify an email to me, it's like, my natural persona lends itself to 15s. I want to manage the game, I want to manage the people, and in 15s, that's taken away, or excuse me, in 7s, that's taken away. Make a call, get it done, get on with it. And you lose that opportunity. And it's that difference in the nature of the game. So, one of the recurring themes is, know yourself. And I think on both of those, it's a conversation Nick and I had last week after his Stars and Stripes match. Aaron and I had after the Frontier Sevens. So think about when you're heading into a tournament, what am I reffing? What's my role? At the Rocky Mountain Challenge, one of the really great things I thought for the young guys over there, Scott took the time, hour, 2 hours the day before, the night before, and really sat down. Here's what we're trying to do. What are you trying to do? What are your goals? How do we put that together? Something I stole and I took to Cowpie, where it made everybody sit down. The 6 referees had to read back everybody else's goals. So, Yapper gets started with what he wants. Then, Gore gives his, and then has to give Yapper's. Haggerty reads out his, and then has to give Gore's and give Yapper's. And so the next day, we actually had a coach who was in from New York who hadn't been there for me because I honestly didn't know he was coming out. So he comes out. Somebody asked, well, what are you working on? One of the other referees actually answered the question for him. He's working on this and this. Here's how it's going to be indicated. Here's how he's know if he did it right. So it was a really cool thing to get to see that everybody was that dialed in for each other. That's what I'd really like to see us do going to Aspen. So when you get that email and it says, what are your goals? What are you working on? How are you going to go ahead and show that you worked on that and get that done? That's the reason why. Because there's only going to be a few coaches who are going to be experienced there. Come Friday afternoon, Friday evening, there's going to be a raft of about 5 new coaches who are very inexperienced. They aren't going to know what you're trying to do as well as you are. If you can articulate to the coach beforehand, I want to approach 50% of my rucks from 45. I want to approach 75% of my rucks at 45. I want to get back out on that 15-degree line 50% of the time. I want to read where the play's going and be on that side of the ruck 60% of the time. Is that an easily seen and measured metric? I want to be right here doing this 60% of the time. Tally them up, divide by the total, and away you go. Mark.
One of the, oh, fuck's sake.
Steve.
One of the, we just had a camp presentation a couple weeks ago, and one of the things we talked about is give yourself attainable goals. 60%, 75%, that's great, but how about just 5 times in a game? Just give yourself an attainable goal. You feel great about getting it. It's an easy goal, and then build up on it. Get 6 next time, get 7 next time. Just start small. Rome wasn't built in a day.
Burned down in one really drunken night, though. So, don't do that, master. So, if you haven't got those answers back to us, and that counts as an AR as well. I mean, when we're talking about know yourself, if you know you're probably not going to be one of the, I think it's the 6 referees coming locally, refereeing up in Aspen, what can you do as an AR to help the referee out? I know with Brian, who's just walked in, one of those things that whenever I'm ARing for him is like, if you see me freaking out, start singing reggae. I know it's not because he likes my singing, it's because it's atrocious. But it hits the reset button. If you're working with somebody and you know that there's something that'll help them hit the reset button and get back to the game that they need to be providing, find out what that is. Work with the person. That comes from having a good relationship with the referee. That also comes from having a good relationship with yourself, where if you're pissed off about being an assistant referee instead of being in the middle, you're probably not worrying about helping him out or helping her out. You're probably worrying about you. Not everybody's going to be in the middle. I can pretty much tell you, heading forward into Aspen, there's people half this room, myself included, who will never be in the middle at Aspen Ruggerfest again. Get over it. I won't be on the sideline most of the time because most of the time I'm going to be coaching people because it's one of the few times we get everybody concentrated like that. Do you want to be the best at what you can do the best at? If so, focus on it. So please, if you were selected as an AR, ask yourself, what do I have to do to be a good AR? Some of the answers we got deep, love your answers, man. It's fantastic. Well thought out, took the time to really put it in there, and that's as an AR. Took stuff that he could do as an AR, turn it into becoming a better referee, and how do I take that forward? It's fantastic, man. Thank you for doing that. Everybody gets that opportunity. That's what we really want to be taking a look at there. I know there's going to be a lot of talk today about ARs. Unfortunately, I have to bounce out of here shortly. Know how to help the referee. Some refs are going to say, hey, if I'm looking at you, give me a little something like this. Other referees will tell you, do not call anything unless I walk over and ask you. Do what they ask. Know when to help them out. Goes along the same ways. Your body language can tell that, and just tell stories. Saw some of the guys, I think it may even made Chris, but just watch him run down the sideline, see him pull up, referee just immediately looked over, stop, yep, comes on over. He completely missed the forward pass, but just that hitch step of standing up gave the visual cue. No, hey, Mr. Alcon! No hanging him out. Maybe the referee did see it and was happy with it. But just that little hitch step, and the ref's thinking, yeah, I think I probably missed something. Should I knock on it? Yeah, good, thanks. Blow the whistle, here's the scrum. But that's the kind of stuff where it's putting the good of the game, the good of the referee, ahead of whatever you're worried about. Any questions about Aspen, ARing, why we're asking those questions, why we take that seriously? Oh, very silent group. Then the other part of that,
To
because
finish
they
up.
had me slave for half an hour, and I'm only going to make you suffer through about another 2 minutes.
15 minutes.
What's that? I said suffer through another 2. Development piece. I said it last month. There aren't very many people here. Say it again. Development isn't something that happens to you. You don't sit in a room. It's not the Matrix. jack something in, you download how to fly a helicopter. You can see America had like the Matrix all weekend, so sorry. But development doesn't happen to you. You have to think about it. You have to work at it. You have to sit there and spend time watching really good international referees. Tricarico's biggest gripe on the weekend. I'm trying to do that and I'm getting yelled at for not doing this. And this is the guy who's going to the World Cup and he does it that way. Well, I talked to Richard Every about that. Every said, figure out your own style. If you need to, tell me to shut up. No, you know. Takes a big pair to go ahead and tell that to Richard Every, but I think Richard's going to go ahead and listen to it every now and again. If you're getting the game that you need to produce. But development is something you do, watching the people at the best, who are the best, taking bits and pieces from that, and creating your own style. Now, obviously, it has to be a good style. It has to work. You have to be meeting the performance standard. But it's not something that I can tell you, Jim Bramley, go do this and you're going to be a World Cup referee. It's not going to happen. Chris Hoff, go do the things that I did out there. Two completely different personalities, different styles. But it's not something that somebody says, oh, I'm going to watch you 6 times and suddenly you're going to be a C1. You've got to put the time in to recognize, what am I missing? Am I missing advanced stuff? Am I missing the fundamentals? Am I getting all of this right, but somehow I always keep hanging up on that? If you're hanging up on a single part of the game, find somebody who's really good at it. If you don't know who's really good at it, you haven't been watching your fellow referees. And you probably haven't been sitting there watching some of the international referees, because you'll see how to get good at that stuff. If you're really hung up on that, talk to Tom, talk to me, talk to Joe, talk to Mark, Derek. We've seen Zach. We've seen it all. We've been around it all. Mike, sorry, I didn't see you sitting right there. Talk to one of the coaches and say, I'm really struggling with this piece of my game. What do I do to get better with it? If you don't know what you're struggling with, this gets back to the self-awareness piece. If you don't know why you aren't getting better, that's a conversation to have with me. If you're getting the same stuff showing up on your coaching reports, that's an issue. Because it shows that it's either not sinking in or you're not making the connection. So feel free to get hold of me to do that, to help you make those connections. It's not something where I get coached a certain number of times and suddenly I'm promoted. It's not I hit a certain number on the beep test and suddenly I'm promoted. It has to be you taking a vested interest and putting a ton of time in to doing the little stuff right. That means getting off the mark earlier, anticipating the flow of play. I mean, the biggest thing that Nick, Aaron, Chris, Zach, the biggest thing I've said to all 4 of you this year is you're too reliant on your speed to catch up when you haven't been getting moving and haven't been anticipating the game. Lower level stuff, high school stuff, you'll get away with that. Collegiate stuff, you'll probably get away with that. You get a PRP game or an ARP game, it doesn't work that way. And all of a sudden, mentally you're fatigued and your game goes to crap. You've got to be doing the fundamentals, the little stuff right all the time. Because you never know when you may end up in a D2 3 versus 4 match, and it goes into double overtime in the middle of the heat of May, and you better have all those fundamentals locked down, because trust me, you weren't expecting that when you walked out there for 18 minutes on the day. True or false, Tom? True. Any questions, guys? We're here to help you out, but we can't make you better. Only you can. We can help you with the path. We can show you where the gaps are. It's got to be you who makes that change. It's not about excuses. It's about personal commitment to yourself. You can hold me if you need me. I'll be around till about 7:30. Otherwise, wrap me up.
Mic drop.
Be succinct.
I take it.
Mark, a long talk today.
Same truck we had in it was harder to get to January though. We were 2 weeks out. get January is always hard because it's winter and harder to train.
This is killing me.
A couple weeks before, and I struggled to get to 10. Big wake up and all your big folks and same thing. The problem is your altitude. Is that? I did the same thing in January. What day are they running it? What day are they running it? Well, I don't get there till Friday night.
Finish up Friday.
Well, what good are you, man?
Not good at all. A couple other things on my mind.
What time's your interview tomorrow? Shut up. I was wondering. I thought that was probably what it was. We need to play golf. Whose house is that, Chuck?
What's that?
Whose house is that?
Quit with the German ball, hard no!
Is that what the frets look like in Greeley?
So nice.
Just say it was breathing and smelled better.
Priority number one. Priority number three, kick that toe check. Priority number four, go put that
Twice Saturday, twice yesterday.
You still have
I just had to move while they were starting. It's cheaper than an hour and I was at 15. Sort of. So I'm like, yeah, the couch is not good anymore. We'll give it a shot. And I'm like, scheduled 15 minutes, backing up and figuring out where apartment is, ended up probably back to the same place. I was outside and by the hour, we go our own sets last year.
Come on, I'm never.
to Sacramento this last weekend to do the Pacific Nations Cup and to do a high performance camp out there. With a lot of the Western Zone referees, and Mark and Richard and Mike Cobb and all of those guys. And this was one of the presentations that was given to us by Mark actually, and it's kind of from World Rugby about their priorities going forward, looking towards the World Cup and what they're looking for from their referees in the World Cup. So they had 4 main focuses. It was foul play, scrum, the tackle area, and then lineouts that then form into mauls as well. Because nowadays we're seeing a lot of lineouts that just go straight to mauls, and teams are changing that to get around those laws. So the first one is foul play. Right now, World Rugby is saying don't give players the doubt. It's saying that the players did these actions and therefore need to be penalized. So you're there just to keep the players safe. You're not there to give them a break. Your main focus is safety, and so if they did this action, they deserve the consequence. So you should not be giving any of the players the benefit of the doubt. Fair challenge is both players in a realistic position to compete for the ball. We have a couple videos that will show you kind of realistic versus unrealistic, and it's a big difference, surprisingly. So the way they break it down is, was it a fair challenge? If yes, it's a play on. Both players went up, they went up at the same height, they went for the ball, collided at the same time, it's a fair challenge, play on. If not, then you mentally have to start filtering, was it a penalty kick, was it a yellow card, was it a red card? You have to look at how the contact was made, then you have to look at how the player fell and how he landed. For a penalty only, it's just wrong timing without a fair challenge. So the player can run into another one. If he just has the wrong timing in the air and knocks him over, it's just a penalty. Okay? If he has some sort of malice in the air, so if he goes to go up for the ball, sees he's not going to get up as high as the other player, and starts to pull him down while he's in the air, you're going to go to deliberate foul play action, and it's going to be a yellow card. And as before, if it's no fair challenge, there's deliberate action, and they land in a dangerous position, the head, the neck, and the shoulders, it's going to be a red. Typically, a yellow would be the back and the butt. So we'll have a couple of videos, and they're pretty good ones for the first section for foul play. Volume upside. So this one you can see in the replay, he goes up, he just times it wrong here, so he's going to challenge and just times it wrong. He's not pulling the player down, he just timed it wrong, so it's just a penalty kick.
Chris, back up a bit.
This one will be a yellow card. You can see, we kind of had a debate about this one at the campus, whether or not he actually landed on his side versus his head. But you can see as he goes up, he reaches and purposely pulls down the player. So it's a deliberate foul play in the air, and as a result, the player should receive a yellow card. Yeah, we were like split right down the middle whether that should have been a yellow or a red. We debated about it for quite a while too.
So who was wrong and said yellow?
What's that?
So who was wrong and said yellow?
Ref.
World Rugby.
I don't know, I saw Mark Nelson present this. So this is not a fair challenge. He did not go up evenly with the ball and purposely took the player out underneath. Player landed on his back or side. Yeah, just because the player decides not to jump and shield himself does not mean that he's putting that player at risk. So he's still putting them at risk, so he still deserves an action. Yes?
Notice that the other previous clips, it was always the non-kicking player who got dumped out of the air. In this one, the kicker did, so it doesn't matter who kicks it. It's that challenge in the air.
This is still a yellow card, even though he lands on his head and his neck because it's not deliberate.
So what should that?
Just so everybody is clear on that. Like, it's not just the,
If it was deliberate, red.
correct.
He just ducked at the last minute to protect himself, but still hurt the guy.
What should he have done?
That player at risk.
Got me on the way.
He's responsible,
Yeah,
so if
he's
he's
still
gonna get in the
responsible.
way to try to compete for the ball, he's responsible for that opposing player.
Takes that back, maybe.
Another thing that they're trying to push right now, besides the players in the air, is anything around the head and neck. And let the players know that anything that they touch around the head or neck has the ability to become a yellow or red card quickly. So as you can see here, just in a simple maul, he's got him around the neck and the thigh.
And he lifts his hand like,
You can see these are, as a referee, these are things that you can easily miss because you can saw he was on the far side, so there are things that you can't see as a referee. But later on tonight, we're going to do some AR stuff, and that's something that you have to be looking at as an AR. You need to see these wide pictures. So he's pulling the player out of it by the neck.
The head and neck,
Pulling the neck
yeah,
by
the
the
head and
neck.
neck thing shows up.
Yeah, he's just like,
Yeah, there's.
help me, Jesus.
The head and neck thing shows up in the barrel
His eye.
clear out of rucks. Is that everything clips coming up?
Yep, that's the
Okay.
next slide.
That's also like,
Yeah.
I imagine.
There's even one in here, I think, where he starts just like tapping out. We gotta get some.
he's grabbed his neck.
Oh, there you go.
He's
Yeah.
got his neck too, though.
Neck too.
Used to be.
So yeah, you need to keep tackles down below off the neck, and especially in rucks and mauls, need to look for players coming in and deliberately coming across the face and across the neck high.
And then he gets trampled.
Yeah, this is the one here.
Yeah, here it is.
You can see he just starts tapping
Look,
out.
he's staring at him.
He's still at it. There's one last one, I think, and it's pretty good. There, referee under that side. Yeah, you can clearly see he's under the neck, choking him out.
Tapping out.
Put that arm around,
You're
right?
right, you win this one, you win this one.
Jeez.
It was a replacement, he's probably all full of vinegar.
This one actually.
There's the barrel roll.
Yeah. So it's actually these players here on the ground.
Oh.
He actually got choked out and passed out from this. You can see he's got a chokehold on across his neck. So the moral story is you need to be looking for these things at rucks and mauls and be looking for that player coming in with the arm high as they're trying to drive forward and coming across the neck. In addition to that, head and neck as well is the rollouts from the rucks. So a lot of times you'll see players come in and they'll grab around the neck and they'll do the gator roll with the player. Now, they really want you to come over and under the armpits and around the body. No more on the neck. It's very dangerous to the players. It can really hurt their legs. Another one, and this actually we saw in the game that night, is players joining the ruck. When you join a ruck, you can join from depth, but the problem is these players, when they join, are joining and leaving their arms back here. So as you can see here in a second, he'll come in and join, and he joins shoulder first, putting his shoulder right into the back of the player. So when you join, you can join from depth, but you need to have your arms out in front of you. You go arms first. So here, red has every right to the ball as the tackler, and he's charged into with no arms from behind. The ref actually calls this one somewhat right as he calls the player off his feet, but you can see from the side over here, deliberate, and twice again there.
Pissed off on one.
Once wasn't enough. He had to go on a second time. So make sure when players are joining that they're joining with their arms forward and they're not just throwing the shoulder into someone's back, someone's head, someone's side. Right to the back of his head.
They're slow black players.
I know, he got upgraded a bunch.
Right. So their guideline is that every time the head or neck is deliberately grabbed or choked, the player is running the risk of getting a yellow or red card, no matter what. And essentially they're saying that because of it, you are responsible for the players, and therefore you have to be calling these. So their second area of focus was on the scrums. This was somewhere I kind of struggled with, and so this was a big help to me in this section. What they did was they rated their scrums from both the Six Nations and the Super 15. So in the Six Nations, they found that the first 2 rounds were very poor and had a lot of collapses, and then the rounds 3 through 5 were much better. They found that the referees tended to be on 2 different spectrums. Either they managed the scrums too much, or they sanctioned and penalized the scrums too much. And so they were saying they want to look for kind of the happy medium in between. From Super 15s, they found that it was similar. The early rounds were disappointing in the scrums with a lot of collapses and a lot of resets. And the later rounds, as the scrums went on later in the season, were getting better. One of the things they're pushing is the word stable. And so with the engagement, crouch, bind, set, you really should be thinking stable at every point. So crouch, they should be stable. You want them temple to temple. Stable there. Bind, again, you want the binds stable and steady with no pre-engagement. With the new engagement, thank you. With the new engagement, what they're seeing a lot is they're seeing a lot of players on bind are already engaged and they already have their head in underneath the other shoulders. That takes away that big hit in the beginning and the big push, which they still want to keep in the game. So one of the things they're really trying to push is keeping players temple to temple even through the bind. That way they don't have that pre-engagement. Set, they should be stable and they don't want to hit and chase. You don't see it as much with the new engagement again, but just make sure to look for it. So they're really looking for stability at every point, and you really should be stopping and checking and getting a slow cadence so that you can get that compliance.
Chris, go back one there. Do you want to talk about adjusting the feet?
Oh, so adjusting the feet is for your, is it loose head? Yes. The loose head, when they go to wheel the scrum, they can adjust their feet going backwards, but they can't step forwards, and they can't swing out sideways because they'll spin it. So if they're there, they can take a step backwards with the foot. They can't go forward because then they'll be hitting and chasing. They'll continue through. Big still. So mental things to look for in a scrum that happens almost all the time is the tight head will bore in on the hooker and it'll cause the scrum to collapse inwards. The loose head will angle and it will cause it to collapse inwards. The tight head won't support their body weight, so they'll end up hinging downwards, or they'll get so far outwards and elongated that they'll just collapse. And then the loose head pushes straight and is not pushing at an angle to collapse the scrum. So in this one, the loose head hides its shoulder in on the hooker, and because of it, you can see that they drive in at an angle and it causes it to collapse. So here, you gotta make sure that they're in a straight line here, and because he has his shoulder in there, he angles in and it causes it to collapse.
Rewind that just to the overhead view, please. And could you explain the loose head hiding his shoulder while you're doing that?
Yeah.
Okay. One of my points is take a look, I mean, hoop jerseys make this easy. If all the lines are in line on those hoop jerseys, you're probably okay. But if they start breaking that, you know, one set of hoops looks like this, someone's got a problem. So you got a problem. That hiding the shoulder, would you tell them about that?
Yeah, so essentially this shoulder gets tucked inwards. So what they have to do is once they're bound on, you'll see a lot of props kind of thrust that shoulder up and forwards, and it helps to keep it in line. If you don't get those shoulders in the line, just like it showed, what'll end up happening is he'll end up driving inwards because of where his bind is set backwards. It'll end up causing the scrum, in this case it popped up, sometimes it collapsed down.
Plus, he's not even bound with his left arm, look, it's down.
Yeah.
Short ball.
That's one of those things you can see pre-engagement pretty easily too. You see him just like tucking really tightly under the hooker, and you know, you just have it as part of your pregame that your shoulder needs to be out. That's what it could be one of your requirements with the loose head. And then if you see it, then obviously you can just remind them of that.
So in this one, the loose head doesn't support his body weight, and you can see that he hinges. So essentially he gets set so far back and doesn't support, and he just bends at the waist. He's in a bad body position, forcing his momentum downward.
Another place to look for that are his knees bent. You know, see, as this happens, his knees straighten out, which pushes the hips up. Oh, that's the flanker. That was the flanker.
Yeah.
He was a big hit.
So in this one, the tight head, he put his legs too far back, which also puts him in a very vulnerable position, because what happens is it changes the center of gravity to the front, and he falls flat on his face. So again, that's one of those things, it's easy to look and tell from just the angle of their bodies and the angle that their legs coming at. If you go and look in the law book, it shows the exact lines of where it is, and which way it should be going. So here, he starts sidestepping before there's a push forward. So then obviously, it's wheeling stuff. So again, this was the sidestep that I was talking about. Yep. So you need to make sure that the players are driving straight and not just stepping to the side right away. So yeah, as you can say, after scrum, make sure that all the shoulders are on the straight line, it's straight across, that way you can get that straight drive and one angle's in. After bind, make sure it's temple to temple, no contact already with the head and shoulders, that way you still get that. After set, wait for the stability, ensure that the tight head's going straight, and then afterwards, we can put in with the tight head's bind, like the loose head's feet, and we can see if he's stepping to the side. All set scrums, they came out with a clarification in February, I believe, about this, and they said they were really going to push it. So here it is. It's a credible feat by the scrum half. They really want it to go in straight, and it's really one of the easiest things to tell is just by looking at the scrum half's shoulders. If the shoulders are facing back towards his team and he's going to throw in the ball, obviously he's not throwing it across the ball all awkward. He's throwing it towards his team and not straight. There are some of them in here that are so incredibly crooked it's funny. So as you can see, his shoulders are clearly pointed all the way back towards his head already and not straight down the line. This one's pretty good. He just throws it.
Explain to me about do not manage, please.
No, I'm not entirely sure.
It's
So,
don't,
Joe, you don't say,
you don't
hey-
let it go and say next time.
Next
Yeah,
time.
don't say
So
straight
it's
to the next time.
staying on the first.
Free kick them. Free kick them. They'll
So as you
learn.
can see, the ball comes in and it's already into the second row by the time it gets to the middle. And it's not straight in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Wasn't even close.
At least his shoulders are more straight.
2 years ago, when we
So,
started.
This, like, more
this
up
one,
to
as you can see, his shoulders are straight,
Free kicks
it
are
rolls in straight down the line.
Go back off of it.
Yeah, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, Chris is up here saying, after the engage, look at this, look at that, look at the other thing, know where your mother's cat is, and then watch the pudding. How do you do that? What do you guys think is the best way to be able to see all of that at once? Because it's gonna happen all at once. Anybody?
Yeah, back up a little bit, probably.
Sorry, Alan?
For me, back up a little bit. A lot of times I get so
Exactly.
close that I
Exactly.
can't see everything.
Crouch, pause, engage.
It's close enough.
That's about set, I'm that old, that's about set, and then that's back, you put in signal.
Fine set.
Alright, one thing with scrums we're starting to see is the ball getting stopped at the back of scrums and the aides carrying the ball at their feet. One thing they're starting to do is with communication is calling to use it for scrums, just like you would do out of the back of the rucks, out of malls. It's if it becomes stationary and the ball is available, the referee will call use it. So if they are still driving forward and the ball is available at 8 minutes feet, they are still allowed to drive forward. Once it becomes stationary, just like a mall, you have to say use it. Let them use it. There's
See how he's backing up after his tap on the 9?
So the scrum's not going anywhere, staying stationary on this line. Referee should be calling use it. There you go, out the back. Yeah, still stationary, not going anywhere. This one is a little bit funny because there's something else that happens in this video that
It was mistimed.
yeah.
Says it
So,
now.
this one, there are a couple things that happen. First off, if you watch the number 8, switching it up. No, you missed it. Alright, so at the end of the video, the referee goes in to call to use it, but the ball is still stuck up at the front of the second row. So the team cannot use it unless the ball is back and available. So in that case, it was not available for the team to use it, and the referee still went in and called for them to use it. So you need to make sure that it's available there at the number 8's feet, make sure that it's stopped and there's no more forward momentum. And that number 8 can't change minds afterwards. He can until the ball comes into the tunnel. And then he can't. So like they said, check after every call. Make sure you have stability after every call. Sanction immediately, give a quick warning, third time should be a card. The tackle area was their third area priority. They wanted to focus on these 3 different aspects. So you observe the balance of strength, the quality of contest, and the quality of clean out. One thing that they gave us was using positive, neutral, and negative tackles. So a positive tackle is the team that's in possession has 3 or 4 guys behind the ball carrier. Barring anything oddly out of the normal happening, they're going to come away with the ball. Negative is the guys out in free space. There's no teammate support there. There's 3 or 4 defensive. The defense should come away with it, anything not happening. Neutral is who knows what's going to happen up in the air anyone's ball. And that really helped us to kind of determine what the outcome should be out of these. They had 3 priorities: the tackler, the assistant tackler, the tackler release, assistant tackler release, and arriving players. As we saw earlier, the arriving players have to use their hands. Tackler, let's make sure that they release, that they are allowed to come in from either side. So in this one of the things they focus on that I really like is rolling towards the side and not towards the number 9. So just making that effort to get out of the bottom of the ruck doesn't mean that you're rolling away. Yeah, because you could be rolling right into the number 9 and still obstructing them. So one of the things they're trying to do is they're trying to get players to roll east or west so that the number 9 can still get their space. So here he doesn't roll to the side, he's just laying on top, hanging out, taking a nap, trying to shoot back his advantage. So it rolls right into the number 9, which is still not rolling away, and it's still obstructing, preventing the 9 from taking the quick ball. So it has to be penalized. If it said as before, if we need a replay, it's not a clear release. So even we had Luke Pierce come in and talk to us, and the question was brought up about even giving just like a little clap, seeing players, take off and clap and go back out. And it's one of those things that as long as to the referee it is a clear release, and you can clearly see the arms out, they can clap, they can do a jumping jack, they can do a burpee, it doesn't matter. As long as you as a referee can clearly see that there's a release and the arms came out and off as well. And the last one that they really were pushing is the arriving player. A lot of times you don't see from the offense, but the arriving player needs to be up on their feet, and they also come in from the side. You look for it a lot from the defense, but it's actually the offense that commits a lot of them. So there, he's not supporting his body weight, sealing off the ball.
That includes hands, that includes arms on the ball carrier, elbows on the ball carrier.
You can't put on.
Elbows you can put on the ball carrier.
Elbows.
Yeah, I thought that's how you
Bind to
use-
the ball carrier.
Yeah.
You can look at the back, and that's a good way to tell. Like if their hips are below their shoulders and they're in this position.
I always just go on top.
So regardless of the age,
Yeah.
level, where it's at,
Guys.
referees need to stay consistent
Someone versus something.
and be strong on the 3 things. The tackler, assist, and joining players. So the last part of their focus is the line out and maul. This one we've seen a lot of changing, and we have teams that are now not contesting line out and maul, which kind of puts it in a funky area. So for a fair challenge, there should be no jumping to disrupt, no sacking of the lifters, and players traveling through the ball can't tackle the ball carrier. They can bind onto him and grab the ball, but they cannot take him to the ground. So this is jumping to disrupt, so it's just a bad attitude. So clearly he's not putting him up straight. They're almost lunging him into the lineout to disrupt. Again, not going up straight with the team. Instead, they're launching him into the other team to try to disrupt the lineout. So make sure that while they're jumping, they're going up straight. Again. He ends up all the way at the back of their ball because of it. So sacking the lifter. Make sure that they're not taking out the jumper or the lifter. Putting the jumper in a dangerous position. Can you explain this? Players traveling through the ball cannot tackle the ball carrier. Players traveling. So if you are in the ball and you're coming through the ball, you can't tackle the ball carrier because it would be collapsing the ball, but you can bind onto the ball, making it unplayable.
Swimming through the ball.
Swimming, yeah. So an increase in obstructions at the lineouts means there's no activity. So referees need to start applying the law. But essentially, with the changes, teams are starting to use lineouts more and more to their advantage. And with that, the referees need to go back to applying the laws on lineouts more strictly. That's the wrong way. One of the things that we're seeing a lot of nowadays is at the malls off a lineout that the ripper is not bound. So right now what's happening is people will back off and it'll leave a gap in between, making them not bound, whereas they have to stay bound onto the player. And this one, once you see it, you'll realize it's very obvious that they're not doing it. So here, this guy has the ball, and he's clearly unbound for a good 3-second window there. And he calls it correct during the obstruction.
So he didn't call obstruction, he calls X on the left side. He asked them to use it, so yeah, if you see that, just say use it, because it's no longer in anything. If they don't use it, turn it over.
Players in front of the ball carrier. So yellow number 8 here, let's see if you can see it. And then this one, you can see once it's formed, they have to join from the back of the ball carrier. They cannot come in front of him. So this is the ball carrier here, and here comes the rest of his team. Join up here on this guy, he's going to join way up here, not on the ball carrier, he's just going to go right past him and join further up.
And then the ball carrier, the guy with the ball just keeps backing further back, more and more layers between him and
For the try. So essentially you have to make sure that players are joining onto the ball carrier and that the ball carrier is staying with the ruck, they're not being ripped off.
So we're seeing an awful lot of this here, where that first guy comes in and strips, and then starts backing out as more and more people pour in front of him.
Yep, and so you just have to make sure you know where the ball carrier is, and make sure that all the players that are joining from the back line and from in the line out are joining to the back of that ball carrier, and that the ball carrier is also staying bound on to the back of the ball. Because once he becomes unbound, accidental offsides, obstruction, you can call it.
It used to be, I feel like, where players would pass the ball back and continue to rip it backwards to whoever's now behind. Nowadays, I see more of the Ricky McCaw style where he just holds the ball and everybody, and then as they bind, he just keeps wiggling his way back where he's never really down, he's just kind of crouched, being crouching tiger hidden by the rugby dragons.
Which is fine to a degree. Again, that degree was when you had that 3 feet of space. So other than those 4 main things here, kind of their main things to look at, and obstruction, dummy players. So if the dummy player is behind the position to receive a pass, then it should be play on. If he's in front, it should be a penalty kick. So if he is not in position to receive a pass at all, then it should be a penalty kick because he's obstruction. Who initiates the contact? If the defender goes in and initiates the contact, then it should be play on. The defender had a choice not to initiate the contact. If the attacker goes in and takes out the defender and initiates the contact, it should be obstruction, as he's preventing that defender from continuing to play. We won't do that video for the sake of time. Offsides. Players nowadays are putting, you'll see the 4-point stance next to rucks and mauls. The 4-point stance is fine, but what they're saying now with World Rugby is that the hands have to be behind the last foot. So you'll see players that will put their feet on the last line and do this 4-point stance with their hands about halfway through the ruck. From now, they need to put their hands all the way back on that offside line. They can't have any part of their body in front of that. Making a lot of people not happy, but as the ruck moves, players must move back with it, and no hands, like I said, on the ground. Keeping the values, we'll watch these because these are funny. Unsportsmanlike behavior must be sanctioned, as well as flopping.
He says something here.
Yeah. I don't have the sound. Yeah, he says something here and he counts off and gets a card. It's not pretty.
I got the ball.
Soccer player.
Right? Well, if you think that was bad, this next one is just as good. So, this one is very reminiscent of soccer, but it's not in the spirit of the game. It needs to be stamped out.
The old fashioned way.
No.
No.
Watch your banner. Not in this rock.
Jeez.
It's nothing.
Oh. It's getting wet, it's getting wet.
Oh, man, it's quick.
Oh, did it get stiff out? What?
It didn't really.
Wait.
He got nudged.
Show the replay.
This is extreme slow motion.
He
Look
got
at that.
clothesline.
Streaming level.
It's a wing.
It's looking great.
Slow.
You can see it all.
I don't know why. So you really couldn't see it in that, but Henrietta didn't actually get clothesline. He ran up to the player, got about 4 inches away from him.
You got brushed.
So there's
So
a
dramatic.
little acting dive flop that is not in the spirit of the game. So in summary, the 4 things they're looking at: foul play, nothing on the head and neck, make sure the players are joining correctly. Scrum, make sure to check after every call and go through your list, make sure to have stability in all your scrums. The tackle area, make sure that they're rolling to the side, make sure tackler assists have a clear release, make sure that there are no hands over the ground, they're supporting their own body weight to have a fair contest. And last, the line out ball, make sure that their jumpers going up straight, they're not disrupting it, taking out the bases. Make sure that the ripper is bound on and that all the players that are joining that maul are from the ball carrier, not in front of him. Any questions?
We will try to put this presentation on our website.
It says here at 7:45, introduce our new recruitment chair.
Great.
What does that mean?
Let's do that.
That means that somebody here needs to volunteer to become our new so that we can introduce them to everybody else.
So we talked last couple of meetings about having a recruitment committee, which is great. A lot of people volunteer. I think Jim, Brian Zapp, Weaver. Yeah, Derek's tried it. That's great, but having a committee, there's no accountability, and we're hemorrhaging numbers. Like we just lost Kevin Berry. We're going to lose Yappert. What? And again, the sport is growing and our number is going down this way. So having a committee is awesome. Essentially, everyone in here is on that committee. It's everyone's job to recruit. But we need a guy who will like follow up on calls. Like if Cam puts in an email says he wants to do that, we'll make sure that Cam knows when the test is. We have sorry, it was Mike? Yep. When Mike's here, we get his name and number on the website. We get into the thing, we kind of reach out to him. We just need a guy who's kind of on top of it. You know, someone who has great follow-up skills, great organizational skills, and can really kind of be in control and just say, you know, just take the bull by the horns. When I first started being an executive, that was my first position with Rocky Mountain, 11 years ago. So there's a great chance to get in and help us out. Does anyone have any thoughts, suggestions? Who would make a good one? Who would not be a good one? Who would like to do it? Who would like to step up? Anyone speak at once?
I'll do it.
Bramley? All right. Bramley and Anthony, do you want to? I mean,
Have a duel.
no, I mean, it's good. That's great. Jim, that's awesome. I think you have enough history with us, and Anthony, your schedule's kind of shaky, so you should be kind of focused on developing a referee. No offense.
No, thank
But let's make Jim, and we'll talk a little later. Thanks, Jim, for stepping up. So we still have a committee of like Zach and Weaver, and again, like all of us. And I would love to say, hey, next guy that brings 2 referees to the meeting will have a full sled of kit. You know, whatever. We can start doing stuff like that. Whatever. We just need to get bodies in the door. You know? Mark?
Yeah, just in context of that, been emailing with Joe. One of the things for the 2030, did that get worked out as far as registration? You know, as far as the process with US Rugby and?
It's,
Let's talk about that
yeah.
in a second.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
okay, thanks, Mark.
So with SIP registration, it used to be that we could just take all your names, numbers, and SIP you guys is all Rocky Mountain. But now with the background check and everything, you have to do it yourself. So it's August 31st, all your memberships will go away. You have to go re-register. That's on you. Again, if you're not registered September 1st, you will not get any names.
When is the window open?
Right now.
Right now.
Just got the email.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
It's
give
not,
it-
sorry, can I just tried it, it wasn't working for me, so I'll send out an email, I'm talking to Lucy at USA Rugby about it.
Steve, was it not working or was it just overwhelmed?
It was not working.
Okay.
So, yes, you will need to register by August 31st, we will send out an email with the instructions when you should do it.
Yeah.
Because the one thing Steve's trying to make sure of is that the fee is exactly what we expect it to be.
Yeah, it's not like that, like
Not
last
like
year,
last
we
year
submitted
where
it
there was
to,
a bunch of extra stuff.
we submitted our dues to Rocky Mountain Rugby Union, and then we got a check back 100 years later, whatever. So, again, I don't think we're charging, well, we are charging dues as a union. Are we not?
No.
Yeah.
USA charges you for your liability insurance and the background check, and that should be all that you pay for.
Okay. That's it?
Do you have to renew the background check
Yes.
every year?
You just go through there, there's gonna be an email, it's gonna tell you what to do, but you go through the process, you sign in, you say, I wanna do this, you put in your social security number if you need it, everything's happy. You pay the same amount whether there's a background check or not.
So again, like, you will not get assignments, and if, you probably can go up to Aspen for it, because it's on insurance. It's not a CIP thing.
Register.
Just register.
That would be sending the wrong message.
When do you get an email?
Why would you say that, Mark?
What do you mean?
Just for match secretary, you will not get a game unless you register.
Guys, we did it last year.
So,
Sorry.
Flip side is if you do register, you may be getting some great games.
Couple other things. For your first Monday of next month happens to be Labor Day. Do we want to have a meeting that day or the next week? The next meeting. Okay.
Big push.
Is that Chicago too? That's Chicago?
No, Chicago's the 3rd, I think.
This is fifth.
It's the 5th.
That's in Chicago.
That's
Labor Day weekend, yeah. Weekend, and the weekend after is a jackalope. That's Monday though, yeah, okay.
Monday, Jackalope. So
Oh, the 7th.
Labor Day is the 7th of September.
Having on a different day?
Yeah, so the 14th.
and the games is fifth.
Have on Tuesday.
We're keeping it on Monday, so.
The Australian match is the fifth. Labor Day is the 7th. Jackalope's the next weekend. We can have the 7th, 14th.
So we can have it the 14th, we can have the English guy here at least.
We'll have the English guys here.
It's Rosh Hashanah.
The last thing
2 days later, we do friends.
is a question for you guys. We need to do TJAR course. It is now 8:20. It takes at least an hour. Do we want to do it tonight? Or do we want to not have an educational thing like we had tonight and do it next meeting?
Next meeting.
Guys, it's two courses that are theoretically 2 hours long, so we got to do both of them.
So we'll start the meeting, we'll introduce the English guys.
Well, bring it up.
No, it's a good question.
We need to do it before Sreven though?
Doesn't cost you. It's just 7.
Don't say that.
It was a 4 hour.
It's just Olympic 7. It's just Olympics. It's just the Olympics, Joe. No big deal.
When you guys make changes to the schedule like this, do you send out like an email, is there like a serve that goes out to you? I am definitely not on it, I don't get anything. Because I get really. I'm gonna talk to the chair about
Better for them to see a normal type of meeting than just do an AR course.
And we don't have a choice.
Hang on, who hasn't taken the
a lot of stuff.
Who hasn't taken it for about the last 5, 6 years in October?
I mean, it's,
Who's been the most recent international ARs?
well, I mean,
Who hasn't taken the test
the
now?
English language here, it's not going to be particularly good for them.
Guys, how many people would show up on a non-meeting Wednesday night to do this?
Man,
I'm quite happy to work.
I don't know if I want to.
we do what?
Can
we do what?
you can, so there's an online course every month, whatever, but
We
only
teach
takes,
it
takes 10
twice a
people.
month for both courses, it's
It's more than
online.
10 that need to take this. There's about 30 of us that need to take this. So I'm not saying you can't. You can go do it on the 11th and 12th. That's when they're offering it online. You're the first one to join. First 10.
I got you.
Yeah. You can sign up right now if you want to.
I'm teaching at least 2 of them.
It's another hour.
Which two? I'll
You
make
guys can knock it out and get an AR course ready. It's less presentation than the rest of us. Honestly, I just went through it. It's not that hard.
You just did it?
I just went through it. It's not that hard. I mean, if
Okay, let's go.
Went to the 4-hour course I went through.
Condensed
4-hour
version
course
tonight.
with test drive.
Right.
And another 4 hours right after that one.
Yes,
4 hours of unnecessary.
I've done it too.
Guys, we're gonna take a 5-minute bathroom break.
Anybody that hasn't taken it in the last couple of years, stay.
You're good to go.
Yeah, they should add a certificate.
Yeah, Well, this is why I've been feeling out of this whole time since spring. I wasn't on email.
Gonna make a motion to do it at the bar. Doing it now.
That just precludes me getting into the bar on.
we're gonna get into this thing around.
Friends out.
This time, been out here about 18 years back in the 70s.
You referee them?
I did many years, but it's been a long time, so I just did it every year. Every different year.
No.
30 years since I rest.
Give us people a chance.